Welcome back, guys, to my podcast, Triggered. Today, I have an amazing guest with me. He has quite an introduction. This is one of the OG kings of Vegas, JRoc. His Instagram is I am JRoc, Jason Craig. He's a master of nightlife, hospitality, club events, EDC Las Vegas. He basically has promoted and hosted celebrities in and out of Vegas for many, many, many years. So, and as you guys know, this city of Vegas basically runs on nightlife, let's be real. Tourism, this whole city runs on that. So anyways, JRoc has an amazing story. And as you guys know, on Triggered, I often talk about my mental health journey. And I think it'd be very important to kind of delve in and dig a little bit here with JRoc. So welcome to the show, JRoc.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Awesome. Good
yes,
to be here.
Guys. His Instagram is I am JRoc, so check it out, guys. But I kind of want to get into a little bit of history. You have quite a history. You have quite an amazing history, so I'll just get right into it. Basically, this guy, I mean, where do I even begin? There's so many things to say about you, but...
I was born.
You were born.
You know, I grew up.
You grew up. I'll delve into like the different areas of your life. So you told me that at one point you worked your way up from janitor at the Hard Rock all the way up to director of marketing there, and you kind of like started exploring your whole career in nightlife there. You owned a hospitality group, you owned Click for a little while, and then you owned ITM. Was it ITM?
ITM, yeah. ITM is the current company in the moment. We're a hospitality lifestyle company, and so we have a multitude of different projects. Hospitality has just kind of always been the bread and butter and kind of where I, started out and have had years of experience in. So, but we got different things besides hospitality, but we're trucking away.
Yeah. You've really been kind of the man of the hour for years in Wynn, Las Vegas, the casinos. There's just like event life in general. Very, very successful. You run in circles with pretty big celebrities and those types. So clearly you're good at entertaining. And as going from, like I said, the janitor all the way to hospitality, you clearly are driven. You're a driven human. And I find that, very interesting. And now you're kind of pivoting towards a boxing career that you're kind of chasing.
Well,
Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm not looking for a full boxing career. I am looking to do one pro fight.
Okay.
Maybe two. Who knows?
Okay.
Right? But just really, it's just doing one for me to check the boxes. I had I had amateur fights. It's something I've been doing, my whole life. I've been in martial arts my whole life. And through that whole process of training, fighting, there was a period of time where I was, I was going to fight for UNLV, and I ended up joining the Marine Corps after September 11th, as I told you. And from that point, it was just kind of, I jumped into nightlife, career, and I was still training. I was still, preparing and injuries. And then I also with nightlife and, my career started blossoming, and I started kind of following that, and then there was a lot of partying and all that kind of stuff in the midst of it. But it was something that I've always, stayed consistent with over the years. I've never stopped training. I'll never stop. It's something that I love. It's like a therapy for me. I enjoy the competition. I enjoy getting better, learning, and so I'm always learning, always growing.
That's awesome. Yeah. Fitness is a huge therapeutic outlet for myself as well. And I see that we both share that, like that drive for adrenaline, the daily workout. You need to get that daily workout or two in. Yeah.
It's a good time for me to, kind of just be focused on what I'm doing, be in the moment, because there's so much external data that's coming in these days for everybody. We have smartphones and all these things kind of always happening. And then also with business, I'm constantly jumping into so many different things that, there's a time period where it's for me, and I'm focused in that moment on nothing but what I'm doing in that moment. And, it serves a good purpose for me that way. And, riding my motorcycle is also probably one of those therapeutic things where, I'm just in my own head and I can take some time to just, be with myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you gave us a little more history. So you're a Marine, you fought in the military, you ride motorcycles, you're kind of like, in some ways, even with the fitness of boxing, you're kind of the epitome of like a successful alpha male. Like, let's be real. at least a alpha male, and you're successful. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I point this out and the reason why this is important to me is because, you and I have shared conversations about mental health, about trauma, about like our battles with suicidal thoughts and things like that. And to me, in all intents and purposes, you look happy, thriving, successful. You get external validation. You have no shortage of friends, no shortage of entertainment, and access to very elevated lifestyle. Correct? And over the year.
Yeah, I guess you could say that in so many words.
I mean, at least access. I'm sure you choose to, break away.
I've been blessed that I have gotten some really cool opportunities in my life. I think I have created a lot of those opportunities, but also, right time, right place, and in some circumstances as well. And I do feel, that I've gotten to live a pretty cool life.
Absolutely.
Done some fun things, and I'm not done.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and the reason I kind of segued into that, because as you guys know, here on Triggered, we do talk a lot about mental health. I've shared my mental health journey with PTSD, anxiety, some serious, really heavy stuff that I, even as in times in life where I was thought I was on top of the world, whether it's through social media, like lifestyle, same thing with you, enjoying some of the finer things in life, I can go pretty quickly from feeling on top of the world and amazing and happy to, within a short matter of hours, to depressed and suicidal and like I don't belong here at all.
Right.
So the reason why I kind of bring this up is because, people look up to people like you, successful, alpha male, driven, you're a veteran, you help veterans with charities and things like that. Clearly you're very well connected and clearly a very empathetic person. But you said you've struggled, and this is something new that you've shared with me, and you said you haven't shared with many people at all, is that you've struggled with the ideas and thoughts and even attempts of suicide.
Yeah. Is this my safe button?
Oh, I forgot to mention
do
this.
I have a
Yes,
safe button?
you actually
in case
do.
I want to.
I love that you pointed that out. Guys, this is the first time I've ever used this. These are our buttons for Triggered. So if I
never know.
say anything that's too triggering, which I am fully aware that can happen because I've experienced it myself.
Yeah.
If you're like, Lauren, fuck that question, you just right there and you could be done with it.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, so, for many years, it's been something that I've battled with, and, it's not something that I would talk about. For me, I always, and maybe the alpha male thing always made me feel like, I needed to be tough, and I needed just to get through it on my own. And, there definitely, there was some real low points for me where I was asking or trying to figure out help. And, my friends, like people around me, really didn't understand. They just would look at my life and say, everything's great. Like you got all these amazing things happening. And, I did have some great things happening, but, when you get home and you're alone and you're dealing with your demons, it's a whole different thing. And, from an outsider's perspective, no one would know. And I didn't share information with people. I always felt like I needed to keep a lot of these things to myself. But over the years of trying to figure out how to do the work that I needed to do to get to a better place, I started opening up more. And as I opened up to you, the other day and kind of giving you some of these things that, I used to be afraid to talk about it. But now, seeing how our culture is now, and when you look at the men's suicide ratio, when you look at veterans suicide ratio, and, there's a real problem out there, and we have to be able to talk to each other about it. We have to be able to have outlets. And I know for me, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to get help, and if there's a way that, just by talking about it and, maybe sharing some of my experience that could help somebody and something that they're going through, to go out and reach out for help. It's worth it. We all need some help sometimes. And
absolutely.
I actually think that, some of it also helped me be a better leader in a lot of circumstances because, in a leadership position, you're managing personalities, you're managing people. And, it's like you never really know what someone's really going through. So I always kind of, I was going through my own demons and things. And so I would always treat people the way I wanted to be treated, and would be empathetic, to things that are going on in their life. Obviously in business, you still have a job to do. And if you can't perform certain tasks, then it's maybe just not for you. But, I always wanted to, at least try to understand them and understand that, we all are going through a lot of things, and we all have a past, and we all have trials and tribulations. So, just having the emotional intelligence, to be able to spot that out. And because I was kind of going through it, I was able to really, build real relationships with staff, with people I work with. And I think that's always helped me.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming out. Was there anything specific about meeting me, or was I just the right person, right time? Like, why is this and now seem like more of an opportune time for you to share?
No, I've just gotten to a place where I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm comfortable with my journey, and the things I've gotten through to get me to this place where I am now. I've gone through so much, self-work, and healing, and I'm still going through it. I'm still healing. I'm still growing. But I've put a lot of these things, in my past, and it took a lot of work to get there. It took me, most of my whole life.
It's like, no, clearly you've been working on this for a while, and you did open up and share to me that it was for 10 years you've been battling this demon of feeling suicidal. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Was there what was triggering you to get to that spot? Did you see anything that was kind of a downward spiral that would put you into that state? Was there anything in your head going on in your head, or?
No, I mean, things happened to me throughout my life. From the moment, when I was a kid, I had some a rough childhood in some circumstances, and I had some great moments in my childhood, but at one point I got abducted by a man, and he tried to kidnap me. There's this whole thing that happened to me when I was a kid that some of my closest friends really don't know, because I've never talked about it and I buried it. But that that experience for me was nightmares for years. Couldn't sleep for a long time.
Wow.
And if I could describe this guy to a T right to this moment, I could see his face.
Wow.
So, things like that.
How old were you when this was happening?
I was 9 years old.
Wow.
I was 9 years old, and it was
it's a vulnerable time.
A vulnerable time, and my parents also, they had their problems. My dad's fantastic. My mom's fantastic, right? I don't want to.
I mean, clearly they made a great kid.
They definitely instilled a lot of good values into me. But families have their good times and their bad times also, and
Absolutely.
so went through that whole process with my mom and dad. Eventually divorcing, and some of those heavy fights and things that happen in families. But through my life, I had ups and downs. Moved around a lot. I moved quite a bit. I lived in multiple states, and as a kid, when you're moving to new schools, new places, you got to find new friends. For me, I was getting into a lot of fights because, you get picked on as a kid, or you draw a line in the sand, and so I drew my line in the sand, and I was always kind of quick to defend myself. Also, after this experience when I was young, I really put a lot of time into martial arts. I was always in it, but I was just very determined that no one would ever take advantage of me or hurt me again.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that no one's going to hurt me.
Yeah.
So I was always quick to stand up for myself. And just through that process, moving to Las Vegas, I didn't like Vegas when I first moved here. I did not like it when I first moved here, and of course,
how old were you when you moved here?
I was a freshman.
Okay.
Like the end of my freshman year in high school, and we had moved pretty close to the school, and there was this gang a gang leader that lived underneath me.
Oh wow.
And a bunch of thugs on the steps every day, that I would have to go through, and eventually I ended up making some friends with these guys, and the leader of that gang, and he got shot in the head right in front of me and my dad.
Oh my God.
Drive by guys. The guys had rented a U-Haul, and 3 guys jumped out of the back, and they caught him, and me and my dad were right there, and my dad had to testify in court and do that whole thing. I wasn't going to say anything, obviously. But, just things like that, these different moments and different pieces of trauma things, I always kind of just tried to suck it up and be tough. There was a lot of time it was just me and my dad, so I was on my own quite a bit. And so, I fell in with my friends doing bad stuff, gangs, getting in a lot of fights, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I always through the process just was trying to, get by. I know, like, when I was young, I didn't feel like I was going to live past, my 20s. I just thought, it wouldn't happen. And as I kept getting older and growing and, getting through some of these things, I just never really dealt with these traumas in my life. I just buried them and, just kept going, which, led me into the Marine Corps and, serving my country in Iraq and, seeing what war is, and going through that and coming home and having a hard time adjusting. I had, it's not like I was, I wasn't, a Navy SEAL, like in the movies, but I was, doing my job and still experiencing, everything that war kind of brings to the table. And so also in that process, really seeing these young guys, 18 years old, and some of these guys, not making it back and being paralyzed and, injured and things, and understanding like their whole life is cut short, So that's always been something for me where I've always tried to help veterans because, when you're 18 years old, you haven't lived, you really haven't experienced life. Some of these guys, fresh out of high school and just falling into a world that changes their life forever.
Yeah.
And then after they get out, the VA and the help that we get is very minimal. I know for me, I had a hard time with finances afterwards. I had to, I was engaged. And then, of course, during the period of time that I was gone, that all fell apart. And so I went through a period of time where it was just really hard for me to just get acclimated back into life. But I, to the point of it, I just kind of toughened up and just put my head down to work. And, I was always athletic. I was always, a hard worker, and I just kind of buried myself into that. And, through that time, I was always in the gym. I was always working out really, really heavily. And really when I started getting like moving in nightlife and like really kind of becoming that guy who was like the facilitator of the party, and I started drinking a lot, and then the drugs and all these things that kind of go with that. And once I started drinking heavily and I was starting in that's where it was taking me into this deep part of myself that I had never dealt with, and those demons kind of coming back to haunt me. And as we were kind of talking about earlier, from the outside, no one would have known because I was winning, and I was, I am, I think I'm a pretty nice guy. I try to live honorably, and I try, to, treat people the way I want to be treated. And so I was always happy, and I was always, full of life.
Yeah.
But I was dealing with some things that, people just didn't understand, because I tried to ask for help. I tried to kind of ask my friends, like, man, I need help, like, and
yeah. What kind of feedback were you getting? Just that, oh, you got on top of the world.
Yeah, it was like no one really took me serious because they just were like, what do you mean, dude? You're on a reality show and you got this and you're doing that. And, they just didn't get it. They didn't understand, and it was hard for me to ask for help. And, I had gone through, the doctors and, depression medications and all these kind of different things that really just made me feel dead inside. And I knew that wasn't the answer. I didn't want to be on that. And I didn't know how to get help. I didn't know how to get help. And I think there's a lot of people out there like that. I think a lot of the veterans, I think a lot of people in general, who are having problems just don't really have the outlets or,
Yeah.
So.
I definitely agree with you that our society has like done our males a huge disservice. I think people in general, but definitely males, definitely alpha males, basically saying that, you don't want to be weak. You don't want to share vulnerabilities. Like that's not tough. That's not strong. And I think I've had to learn this myself on my own journey because I kind of tap into like alpha female energy, right? Like I want to be fit. I want to be strong. I'm an adrenaline junkie. Like I find a lot of strength in that's kind of like my armor, right? Like the pain that I went through, I delved into fitness. I find it very therapeutic as well. But I didn't know that I thought, okay, I'm strong, I'm fit, people look up to me, I get validation, this is great. But I didn't know that I would still be able to hit really huge rock bottoms because I internally didn't love myself and I internally felt a lot of pain and I internally felt a lot of rejection. My personal pain and journey, I don't know if I shared the whole thing with you or if and a lot of my audience already knows, but I came from a very strict religious church and this particular cult, I'll call it a cult because I don't agree with their values. I escaped, I left. Shared a little bit about you that, they did horrible things. They protested military funerals. They protested children's funerals. Like they were just very self-righteous and condemning. And I didn't at all vibe with them. I ended up leaving and condemning them. But in the process, I lost my family. So I was only 21. I lost my mother, my father. I was the oldest of 4 siblings. Everyone in this church was like my family. Like we didn't really associate with anyone outside of it. So for 7 years, I knew no one else. I had no other best friends, no other friends. So when I left and I got basically kicked out, they all like said, "Screw you. God hates you. You're a piece of shit. You're leaving." I got immediately like ousted. So I had no contact. And that contact was up to 15 years. I didn't see anyone. So it was very, very hard on me. And over time, it was a lot of trauma. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I decided to become my own kind of like superhero, right? Like I built myself up. I found love of fitness, strength, adrenaline, like these things that started to uplift me and make me feel safe. But I didn't know that armor or that protection, that love and adoration I was getting wasn't getting to the core of like how I feel about myself. Like I was still seeking external validation, which is awesome at times, but for some reason when you hit a low, like you said, through whether it's through drugs, alcohol, maybe another loss, maybe another micro trauma happens, and all of a sudden you're triggered into that low spot where you're like, holy shit, nothing else matters. Like nothing else is helping me right now. My success isn't helping me. My followers isn't like none of that matters. Like I just feel really low. And I've experienced that too, where I've, right after I got kicked out of the church, I felt suicidal. I even called my parents and I said, "Hey, Mom, like I don't know. I feel super low. I feel super bad. Like I have this really crazy feeling like I'm just gonna die. I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna kill myself. Like one of those things." And it's a super intense feeling. And you ask for help and you seek it. And at that time, I got shut down. I got told like, no, like you're not part of us. You're not part of God. Like it was intense. And in that moment, I think I wasn't even trying to commit it. I was just seeking for help at that time. So that happened. And then there's another time where I felt super low a few years later after a breakup. It's kind of like usually a series of events that kind of hit you hard. And I was like... Triggers you. Yes, exactly. I was triggered. And I was at a low. I was going through a breakup all on my own, trying to start life back over. I'd already lost my family, still not in contact with them. Had a breakup, so lost another person I loved. And I was like, man, this is rough. And I remember like I swallowed like maybe not a whole bottle, but definitely a good portion of a bottle of Xanax. I took wine and I was like, that's it, I'm done. And at that time, I guess I was still seeking help because otherwise I wouldn't have called someone. But I did call, at that time I called my ex's mom and I got help and I got my stomach pumped and it saved me, but I know going that low. And this is even before my like Instagram careers, before a lot of the things that made me feel a little more like better about myself. And there's moments after that I also felt the same way. Even after successful marriage, having kid, like some of the things you would think in life maybe gave you more stability or more blessings, I've still been able to plummet all the way down to feeling absolutely destroyed. So I don't know why I really went there. I know that like basically we have a similarity where we have therapeutic outlet in fitness. We kind of like are driven people, so I kind of relate to you on that level. Although I haven't reached the level of success you have, but I still like to be around driven people. It's very like motivating for me. But I'm curious if you could share with us like the moments where you felt suicidal and like could you kind of share that with us a little bit?
Yeah, and I'm going to start with this and then work backwards a little it. But that internal voice that's inside of our head, it's it's something that we have to really understand and control. The words that we speak out loud, become what we feel. Their words are very powerful. Our thoughts are very powerful. And I didn't understand that for a long time. And I let those thoughts and, things kind of overtake me. And, for the longest time.
What were some of your inner thoughts and your inner critic? Because
I honestly, there was periods of time where I was, throughout the entire day, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about how I could make it look like an accident, because I just didn't think it was honorable for me to kill myself. And so,
would you say it was like a self-loathing that you were thinking and feeling?
Yeah, I didn't love myself at all. I didn't like myself. I just couldn't find a reason that I wanted to live anymore. And it was hard. I didn't understand why I thought that way, but it's literally how I thought. And these things at the same time, I was winning, and these things in my life with my career were going well, and so something good would come along that I'd say, okay, like, what do you mean? Like, you just stick in here, like you got good things going on, like just work past this, But the alcohol and some of that obviously, really like pushed me into those bad places, but the longest time I just it was always kind of there. And I didn't know how to shake it. And like I said, I did a lot of work.
Was there like an aha moment in terms of like, I got to change? Was there an aha moment about like, okay, I have like this signal to do inner work? Like what changed you to do the work? What gave you that inspiration or that motivation?
I was able to, like I've had some really great women in my life, and I feel like some of them have also helped save me a little bit, because there was times where they were the only ones I could open up to. They were the only ones that I could really talk to and could understand me. They loved me and I loved them, and they could understand when no one else would. Mm-hmm. So there was times where I had some really great relationships that I learned from them too, and I almost wanted to stay focused and for them. But I still hadn't figured out how to love myself. And it took being alone. It took being by myself, because I started, kind of with my relationships, it was almost like they were saving me, but I needed to save myself. And so I started taking, I took a few trips by myself. I started really diving into just being okay being alone, really kind of loving myself. And, I went through the whole gambit of shamans and this and that, and lots of reading and lots of alone time. And, one of the things, and I could tell you this story, there was a turning point for me, where, I had taken another trip by myself, and I was really in this mode of like, let me figure this out. Like, I need to put this behind me, mm-hmm. And, I was in Europe, and, I was, in Paris, and I was by myself, and, a girl that I had worked with was out there with a friend, and they were like, let's meet up. And so I ended up meeting up with these girls, and, we ended up having this great friendship. And, through that process, we had the best night in Paris,
I'm sure you should have a good time.
Yeah, and I know, some guys who own venues and stuff like that there, through my connections and whatnot. And so we had a great time, and had an all-nighter, and they decided they were going to stay with me because I was going to go to Amsterdam the next day, and they decided to stay. And while we're on the train, we all fall asleep because we were out partying like literally all night till 8 a.m. till like getting on the train at 11. Right?
Yeah, gotta love those European trains.
Yeah, and so on the train ride to Amsterdam, I got robbed. My whole bag got taken. I had $7,000 in cash in there. I had my laptop, my passport, everything was in there. Damn. So I had nothing except for my wallet and the clothes on my back, and they were great, and we decided like, I'm still here, and I feel like God is testing me now and putting these obstacles in my path because I need to overcome them. So I just kind of stayed positive through that, and we had another great night in Amsterdam, which was awesome. The next day, I was trying to get my passport back, and it was like, you have to have everything here by 10 a.m. type of a scenario. And again, we were out all night, but got up early, and literally at one point was running through the streets to, to the embassy.
Yeah.
And it was literally like the security guards and everybody was clapping, happy that I made it, because I was telling them my story. I was like, I'm trying to make it back home for Christmas. My sister just had my nephew, and it was like, if you don't get this done, you're stuck for a week.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to get it for you. So, I was doing everything I could to get it. I got everything done in time, and still they couldn't get it through. So they were like, we're sorry, you're stuck. So at that point, the girls were like, we'll stay with you. We don't want you to just be by yourself. And I was like, no, go be with your families. This is for me to deal with. Like, I need to figure this out alone.
Yeah.
And I remember it was Christmas Eve, and I went to dinner, by myself, and went back to the hotel, and then I hit a low point. I really got into my head about it. Some of those things started kind of creeping back, and I feel as though, honestly, this is the last time I have felt this way, or maybe let myself feel this way. Mm-hmm. But I got into that moment again where I was like, man, I've lived a good life. I feel like I've treated people well, and if I go out now, it's, I lived a good one, and at least I'm away from home. And I mean, I was literally, wow. I really I sat there, and I had that moment of like, nah, like, wake up, like, and I went online, and I found this charity that was helping people on Christmas, people who didn't have families, underprivileged, homeless, kind of a mixture of all that. And I woke up early that morning, and I kind of turned my negative into like, let me try to help, and so went to this place, and a lot of people there, and I there was a big language barrier. I don't speak French, so language barrier, but there was this kind of feeling of love, and they knew that I was there to help, and I was, they felt that. And, there was like one lady who could kind of, she could speak a little bit of English, so she kind of guided me around a bit. And so they had a band there singing like live songs. And at one point, she stopped everyone and, gave the speech in French, and then she did it in English so that I could understand. And she was just like, we have a very special guest with us here helping us today, from America. He was supposed to be with his family today, but he's here with us, and we want to play this song for him. And it was Let It Be by the Beatles. And it just was a moment where everything that kind of culminated into this moment for me where I felt like, I could have been home, I could have been at home with my family, but I'm here, and I'm helping these people, and it's like genuine. And that moment for me was really like a turning point in my life, because, even though I got my bag stolen and all these things and everything else that happened in my life, I just felt like, it was just this turning point. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It was like God kind of touched me.
Like divine intervention.
Yeah.
I think you made the point where you said it was literally like the obstacle is away. He's putting this challenge in front of me, putting this obstacle, and you're like, that's it. I need to face it. Yeah. And I think I love this story. It's so touching, and thank you for sharing it with us. It's just like I see this like reigning theme in my life and other people's lives where I can kind of see the struggle and the overcoming. And it seems to be that what happens is, instead of constantly running from our pain, right? Because our pain kind of will chase us throughout life until we have that whatever the aha moment is. Sometimes we can dodge it for a while.
You got to face it.
You can put up the armor for a really long time, and all of us have coping mechanisms, right? Like some of us like get really stone cold, some of us get distant, some of us get clingy. Like we have all these different mechanisms of how we handle our pain. But if you keep going and avoiding it and don't face it like you did, like you took that moment and you said, I'm going to face it. Like this is my moment.
Yeah. And I'm addicted to facing fears.
You kind of are. You like to chase challenge.
I'm addicted to facing fears now because I like to overcome them, and when I was talking about doing this boxing match, that's a part of that. It's a challenge,
Yeah.
it's putting, obviously you have to prepare for it physically and mentally you have to prepare for it. And I like having this challenge in front of me that I have to tackle. That's scary or tough, and I want to get through it. And so like now challenges for me, like I like to go head first right at them.
Yeah.
And
I think you have to have that mindset to be a fighter for sure.
Definitely.
I mean, you clearly have
But
that.
I feel like in life, in life too,
Yeah.
like have the hard conversations, right away. And like I always say this in my business, and like have the hard conversations first, and I like to dive right into things and deal with them. And, through the process, I feel like I found God again, and I really love myself. I'm at the best place I feel like I've ever been in my life, and I'm grateful for these things that have happened to me. I'm not a victim.
Mm-hmm.
I am someone who
How did
took
you have
those things
How
and
did you have
used
that?
them.
How did you have that moment though? Because I will say for myself, I can't speak for your journey, but for my journey, I would have never openly admitted that I have a victim mindset ever, because that's so weak and like that's not the image I put out, right? I put out a strong, athletic, female, like competitive, whatever. And if anyone would have said, "Oh, you kind of have a victim mentality," I think deep down inside I did, because I would say things to myself like, you're not worthy, you're going to be abandoned, everyone that loves you is going to leave you, everyone that's ever loved you has left you, you're not really, once people figure you out, they'll fucking give up on you. Like these are the thoughts that are deep down, like not in they weren't surface level, like I couldn't actually, until I did the work like that you're talking about, I couldn't verbalize that that's what I felt. But once I did the work and I tried to see what am I telling myself in this moment of anxiety or depression or whatever. So I'm like, I don't. Where was I going with that? What were we talking about before?
Well, I mean, I understand that,
It's just like,
you have to.
where were you at when you had like this inner critic that's telling you these negative things that you kept resurfacing, right? Over the course of 10 years, they're resurfacing, they keep hitting you. And then what, like this day that you talk about, was it the act of giving back to others where you're like, oh, this is what life's about. This is how I feel loved because I'm giving back. Like was it kind of that?
I'm not sure, because I was always, trying to help others,
Yeah.
through the process. And that always did make me feel better.
Maybe a little.
It has always made me feel good to help people.
Of course.
It always has made me feel good to make people laugh. It has always made me
Right.
feel
So you
good.
already had that going for you for a long time.
I definitely was. I've definitely always been a people person, and I like I like humans.
Yeah. So maybe the gratitude that you had this divine intervention that kind of made you face your fears, and you stood up to that challenge. That was like, okay, this is my moment. I can face it. I can deal with it, and now I can go back and.
Yeah, I feel like it was a test for me, and like I said, there was periods of time where I was able to put demons behind me and go through, and then moments that I'd be triggered into it. But from that moment on, I just mentally, I won't let a negative thought come in my head.
Yeah.
I don't let negative outside opinions judge me in a way, like I know who I am, and like you don't know me, so I don't let outside bother me. I am good in here.
Yeah.
And I know that there's nothing that if I want to do it, I'll do it. And, one of the things that I always have taken, from the Marine Corps is, people don't understand how hard it is to get through that, and I'm like, I've made it through all these things in my life. There's not much that can take me down, like, and all those experiences, everything that I've gone through has made me to this man that I am now. Sometimes I feel like, this alpha, it's kind of a bad, it's not looked at right. And, because I guess, you said I'm an alpha, but, I have a lot of compassion. I'm definitely.
I think from the outside appearance, I'm getting to know like the emotionally like stable guy inside.
Yeah.
But you haven't put out that much as This is the first time you're putting that out there, which I find to be very strong.
I've
but
had that a lot,
seen-
actually.
Really?
I've had people literally, be like, "Wow, you're so nice." Like, I didn't expect you to be like nice.
You are.
And I'm like, well,
you are
why?
a lot more down to earth than just if someone just looks at your image
Mm-hmm.
and then you meet you. You're down to earth. You're easygoing. You're like it's kind of like this different persona.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a great balance.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have a balance.
I think so. I mean,
You know?
I don't know, but I do get that.
Yeah.
People who don't know me or they have a specific thought in their head of who I am, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can relate to it too because a couple things like when I relate to you having a past with trauma is that for a long time I used to like go to my therapist and I just be like, why can't I just need God to take this from me, like this pain, this trauma, like downward spiral, like I just take it. I feel so plagued. And I remember moments of not ever feeling I'm going to be better, like ever be cured, because PTSD is a real, and I didn't even go to war, so I don't even know the depths of how bad it gets for war veterans, but I know the pain that I had, and I was like, how do I just get this away? I need to cure this. This is terrible. And she said to me, if you take your trauma and you can turn it into a superpower. And I never understood what she meant right away. And I was like, I always like kept that in the back of my head, like as a mentor quote, like you're going to turn your trauma into a superpower. And I was like, because when you experience such a low level of pain, like such an intense level of pain or a low spot in your life and you overcome it, you can relate to people who've gone there, right? And you can relate to people that have gone through a little bit less than you, even better, right? And sometimes you can relate to them if they've gone through more. So that becomes a new superpower or a new level because now you have a different level of empathy than others that can't relate. They don't really know how to talk to you about it. They don't know how to get there. So when I realized that's what it was, I was like, oh my God, I can help people. It's like someone who overcame like maybe cancer and wants to help people go overcome cancer. Like now they can relate. Now they can help, and you are like a mentor. So once I realized that was that, I was like, this is it. Like the helping people with this. And who doesn't? I mean, we experience trauma. We experience like big traumas, capital T traumas, micro traumas. Like our world is surrounded with them, and I think we don't even give the credit to some of the things that really cause pain in our lives. But
no, and I think to like oh you're talking about this now. Well, it's. Again, I think it's important for us to talk about, it's important for us to have conversations like this, because there's a lot of people in the same position where they're struggling and they maybe need to talk about it or they need to find help or, they just need a hug.
Yeah.
It's just, we live in a world right now that, it's not so easy, right? And we all need outlets, and we all need things that, hobbies. We need things that we can put ourselves into. And for you, it was working out. For me, it was working out in a lot of ways. But, finding your inner self and finding how to love yourself is super important. And I didn't understand that. Like when someone would say love, like I love myself. Back then, I was like, "Oh,
what
you're
a narcissist."
Yeah, like I didn't get it, but now that I do, I don't want to say it's a superpower, but it's a different level of enlightenment that has taken all these things and just go away. Like other people's thoughts of me, it's like. None of that bothers me, It's I've just gotten to a different level of consciousness.
Yeah, no, it comes through. You can definitely tell you've done the inner work, and I know I'm prodding. So if I'm asking annoying questions, there you go, right there. You can smack that, smack the buzzer. But so I'm curious because my journey, I have my journey. I would say I was really on it for about 3 years, like seriously, where I needed to do inner work with my therapist. I needed to do EMDR work. I needed to do plant medicine, this and that. For myself, I had to do like, affirmations to reprogram the shit talk I had going on in my head. And like, was there anything through like your shamanic experiences, anything you can kind of touch on that was like kind of like healing for you that you can share?
Yeah. Well, I've always been very open. To things, right? Like I'm not like a closed off person. I'm open to new experiences. I'm open to different thoughts and opinions and everything. I did massage therapy school. I think I told you that, right? I went to massage therapy school right after high school, and because I wanted to start making money right away before I was going to college and that sort of thing. And within massage therapy school, obviously you learn a lot about the body, but you also learn a lot about energy because energy is a real thing. And when you put your hands on people, you can accept that energy from people. And just like, like if I'm having a bad day, my girlfriend's probably going to have a bad day. If I'm right. Like there's this thing that happens with energy. And so I learned a lot about energy very early on, and what kind of power that it has. And I would say that, having that openness did help me when it came to going to healers. I had a therapist / energy worker that I worked with for a long time, Jeannie. If you're out there, she's great. She's fantastic. I go in there and have my cry sessions.
I love it.
And then she would go and she would do energy work with me after that. And I did that for a long time because I found I really enjoyed her as opposed to like your regular kind of therapist. I don't know. She just really got it.
She had a way about her.
She had a way about her. And those things help me. I mean, I think honestly, my number one thing for me is my routine. I wake up, I try to not look at my social media or my phone, and I read. And I do a little bit of reading every day, and I go right to my workout every day, and then I get my day going. And I'm a very regimented person. When I am in a schedule, on my schedule, I'm everything's clicking, everything's firing, and I have to keep myself scheduled. So even when there's been down times or things, as long as I'm continually sticking to a schedule, reading, I used to journal a lot. I do affirmations every day. 11:11 hits, and I'm stopping wherever I'm at to, manifest the things I want in my life and bring in positivity. So I do these regimented things every day that have now become a habit and a very positive habit. And at the same time, I'm very, I'm pretty strict on my diet and the foods and things that I'm putting in my body, because that also does change your mood. It also does affect you. So I've gone in this biohacking phase of my life.
I love it.
And I'm learning so much, and I really enjoy that process. And so all those kind of things combined, I'm just on a path to the best possible me that I can be all the time, and I'm still growing and I'm still getting better. And
I like that.
I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better lover. I want to be, a better businessman and a better friend.
Yeah. Yeah, this is amazing. The stuff that you're talking about with the routine and the biohacking, because you're basically eliminating a lot of the outside noise and a lot of the outside distraction and a lot of the outside like variables that pull us away. Like you said, too much alcohol, too much drugs, too much unhealthy foods, or even too much time. I've noticed, and I've had to learn this myself. This is, I don't do well if I have too much time on my hands. Like some time is good because you want freedom, financial freedom, and freedom to travel, freedom to enjoy your life. But too much will make your mind go weird ass places, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably helping you too with the regimented, because obviously you're a busy man, you're very successful, you have a lot of things to manage, but if I sit with my own thoughts for too long, I'll find problems. I think we all do. So you'll find problems with yourself. This is not too good. This is not good enough. And you see yourself going into a negative spiral. So what I've noticed, and this is one of my I have many therapists on Suicidal. Thank you to all of you beautiful people. But one of my therapists, my EMDR therapist specifically, she helped me. And I don't know why this took me forever to figure out. I'm 37 years old. You would think that you'd learn this by now, but it seems very simple. She said, every thought that comes into your mind, you don't need to keep. And I was like, that was the most aha thing I'd ever thought. For some reason, I thought every thought that comes into my head is mine, and that now I need to ponder it and figure it out and analyze it. She said, no, you get thrown shit in your head all day long. It can be like a devil's thought, a friend's thought, negative thought, social media thought. You don't have to own it. It's not yours.
Right.
And when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, that was like the aha moment for me that you're kind of talking about. I don't need to listen to all this negative outside noise. I don't need to be judged by whoever's judging me. That was so pivotal. And now I started to realize I need to clean my head, right? I need to clean my thoughts. I need to clean my environment. If my environment's too cluttered, then my mind will be cluttered.
Definitely.
If my body is feeling all sorts of out of whack, I need to get back on my schedule with that. And once you start to clean up these little aspects of your life, and some of them seem small, right? Like maybe keeping your clothes organized, or you're keeping your bedroom, tidy.
Make your bed every day.
Yeah, it seems, I thought that was so lame and dumb the first time I had heard it, but now that I've been doing so much work of figuring out that the world can kind of clutter us at all times, and if we don't manage our little our little like zone of reality, then everything can start to make you out of whack, right? You know?
100%. And we have to manage that ourselves. There's no one coming, I always look at it like no one's coming to save me.
No.
No one's coming to help me. I need to help myself, and every day I'm trying to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
Every single day. And that's a drive for me.
That was a piece I had missing for a really long time. I went back to this is embarrassing. I don't like to admit the victim mindset. What was the book that I read recently? It's called Conscious Loving, actually. But it basically identifies, like, it'll have a back and forth dialogue between, like, girlfriend and boyfriend or husband and wife, and it will show how someone has like a victim mindset or maybe this and that. I'm like, whoa, dude, I say all those things. And I was just like, whoa. But it was just letting me know that, it's understandable where that comes from, like that what happened to me would have put me there, but it's my responsibility to change that at some point, because otherwise I'm just going to keep hurting myself or hurting others, or like you said, looking for someone to rescue me when I got to rescue me.
It's up to you. And it's also, you have to protect your energy. Like we were talking about a little bit, you have to protect your energy and those people that are around you as well. Like I like to be around people that inspire me. I like to be around positive people, like people who are negative, people who are, have a victim mindset. I may try to help them or try to give my advice to them. And sometimes I won't because, I need to protect my own energy. And I've gotten to a place in my life where whether it's friends, family, or anyone who, isn't giving me that, then I just choose to remove myself from that. I don't need to say anything about it, but I just choose to remove myself and protect what I have and protect what I've gotten to, and I know who I am. I'm a good man, and I'm going to continue to be. And so I have to protect my energy and my time.
That's really essential. That's a really good point too, because although I learned that journey within the last year, I also learned boundaries, which I didn't have very many of them at all. And now I'm learning boundaries are so healthy, like individual boundaries, personal boundaries, like you said.
You gotta learn to say no.
Not
like the movie Yes Man. It's kind of like the
also
opposite.
Like,
you got to learn how to say no.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I don't need to be at every party anymore. I don't need to be at every single thing if it's going to mess up my schedule or not serve me. And, not everybody understands that, but like I have to protect my energy.
And what I learned about boundaries that you're stating so clearly is that they actually can teach you. Like if someone sets a boundary on me, hell, I don't like it at all, right? But then I start to question, oh, what did I do to hurt this person? What am I doing to myself to hurt myself? So it actually serves as like a little tough love lesson, you know? And you might not like that shit. I didn't at first. But then you're like, oh, that person's teaching me something right now. Yeah,
because we all have things, and I would always say, like I've made some great friendships over the years with a lot of people, and I don't get to talk to all those people all the time. And some, maybe relationships that I don't need to continue forward. But some of those are relationships, I might not even talk to them for a year, but the minute I see them, it's like we are just like we never left, hugging, and it's like this feeling. And those are the kind of people I want in my life. And everything else is just
solid.
Nice.
Weed out the bullshit, weed out the rest. I love it. Okay, well, that was an awesome interview. I loved it. Thank you for sharing all your story with me. I didn't even trigger you. I thought I was going to trigger you. I was going to dig really, really deep. And really,
I just wanted to do that one time.
I love it. It's the first time we used it. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I hope you had fun. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm glad. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and be back for more.